Hi everyone, my name is Liz, I read, and welcome to another video. And today I am reviewing the book Sightwitch by Dennard. So this is the novella, part of the Sightwitch series. It takes place before the events of Sightwitch, but it was released after book 2 of Witch. So I'm not 100% sure. I don't think it quite matters which order you read it in, except for I would suggest for sure reading Sightwitch first. I read it after Witch because that's when it was released. It was released after Witch, like publication date. But this specifically is a review for Sightwitch, so I would suggest at least reading Sightwitch first. I'm not sure if it really quite mattered that I read Witch before reading this, but after reading this novella, I do anticipate going back and reading some segments of Witch because it kind of made some things a little bit clearer. So let's just get on with my thoughts about this one. If you've watched my other reviews, you know that I loved Sightwitch and I liked Witch okay. I had some problems with it. It wasn't my favorite installment, but it was still really enjoyable. This definitely kind of redeemed the series for me. It became such a pleasant surprise. So we follow Ryber, and we follow actually 3 different Sightwitches. And this story takes place in a convent. So it's the Sightwitch sister convent, and they're up on a mountain. And this convent has been there for like 1,000 years, I think, at least. So these Sightwitches get the sight by devoting their lives to the goddess of this mountain. And by devoting themselves to this goddess, one by one, they get called down into the mountain to receive the sight. This story, we follow Ryber specifically, but there is multiple POVs. We get a little bit of her best friend, and then we get other entries by this one Sightwitch from the past, and the stories kind of intertwine. This ended up being kind of like a thriller. I kind of want to say that lightly because I don't really read thrillers, but this was definitely thrilling. You weren't really sure what was going on. What ends up happening is Ryber's been waiting to be called into the mountain to receive her sight. It's like the one thing she's always wanted. She's dedicated her life to this. And the day that her best friend gets called instead of her best friend doesn't come back. When they get called, they're supposed to come back the next day, and her best friend doesn't. And then one by one, more and more Sightwitches get called into the mountain, which is not normal. Normally, a Sightwitch only gets called when it's time for them to receive their sight and when it's time for them to go to sleep, aka rest in peace. And it's an odd thing, and it gets to the point where Ryber is the only one, and we don't know what's going on. And the story is ultimately about Ryber, but we get some insight into Ryber, who is a character from book 1. We also get some insight on Cullen, which was interesting. And yeah, this ended up being a pleasant surprise. I didn't think I would end up loving it as much as I did. I think the thrilling aspect really helped. I feel like this was more of a contained story, and like comparing this to Witch, my problems with Witch was there was just too many POVs for my liking. And I don't mind multiple POVs because this had multiple POVs and Sightwitch had multiple POVs. But with Witch, it was like 5 or 6 POVs. And so I didn't like that it was too much was going on. I like a more focused story, and this was definitely a more focused story. Even though we were getting flashbacks to the past and getting some answers regarding this world, it was still a lot more focused because ultimately the story was about Ryber. I think between Ryber and the flashbacks, I preferred Ryber's story more, but the flashbacks were still really interesting, and there was some kind of ominous prophecies being told in here. And I think this is essential to the story. I don't suggest skipping this. Either way, I suggest reading it because it was just really good. I would almost recommend this to anyone who likes thrillers and wants like a fantasy thriller. And even if you don't want to read the series, I would suggest maybe even picking this up because I just enjoyed it so much. I really like convent stories. I like learning about a secluded setting with a group of people who have the same kind of belief system and dedicating themselves to a deity. Like, I just find that kind of storytelling really interesting, and so I think that's another reason why I liked this story so much. And I really liked getting to know Ryber as a character. So I definitely recommend this. I ended up giving it 4 stars. And I'm glad that I read this because now I'm more excited to read Blood Witch, which is book 3 in the series. And the last book out so far. And here it is. I don't know when I'm going to get to it, but hopefully soon. And that is it. That is my review for Sightwitch. I hope you all enjoyed this video. If you've read Sightwitch or the Truthwitch series, please comment down below. I would love to know your thoughts and opinions about this book series. If you have any recommendations for me, please comment down below. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. Please subscribe if you have not done so. You can follow me on Instagram and Goodreads. And you know what? I want you to keep reading. Bye.